Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to the walkthrough of paper 3H from Edexcel from November 2019 series. Okay, question number 1, it says expand and simplify x plus 5 and x minus 9. So we can start off by doing x times by x, which is x squared, x times by minus 9x, and 5 times by x is plus 5x, and plus 5 times by minus 9 is minus 45, and we can collect the like terms in the middle. So minus 9 plus 5 is minus 4x and minus 45. Okay, so that's part A. Now part B says factorize fully 9x squared plus 6x. So we look for the common factor between both terms, and we have a number common factor. Well, the highest common factor is 3, and then we also have a common factor of x. So that goes outside the bracket, and 3 times 3 is 9, and 3x times by 3x would be 9x squared, and then plus 2, because 3x times by 2 is 6x. Okay, question number 2, and it says use your calculator to work out, we've got 29 squared, take away 4.6, and all of that divided by a square root of 35, take away 1.9 cubed, and write down all the figures on your calculator display. Now I would start this question by opening up a fractions button on your calculator and then putting in 29 squared, take away 4.6, and then scroll down to the denominator part and open up the square root button and type in 35 minus 1.9 cubed and press equals, and you should get 150.768,255, and it says part B says write your answer correct to 4 significant figures. Okay, now 4 significant figures, well, that's the first one, second, third, and fourth, and the number after that is 5 or bigger, so we add 1 to this number, so that will be 157.7. Okay, question number 3 says the scatter graph shows information about the marks a group of students got in a science test and in a maths test, and the maths test marks are on the y-axis and the science test marks on the x-axis. And it says Jamie got a mark of 34 in the science test, and use the scatter graph, find an estimate for Jamie's mark in the maths test. Okay, so a scatter graph shows a correlation between 2 sets of data, and we can figure out the answer by drawing a line of best fit. So a line of best fit which approximately goes halfway between the points, or half the points on either side of that line, and it follows the general trend, the correlation of the marks. So if we put this in, so just bearing in mind you cannot go beyond the first piece of data, and you can't continue with your line after the last piece of data. So that would be a line of best fit. So using a ruler and a pencil to draw that. And then it says Jamie got 34 marks in the science test, and find Jamie's maths marks. Okay, so 34 marks. So again, we need to draw another line from this science test marks. I'm just trying to draw that, and it's 34 34. So 34 is roughly here. So follow that line. So go up to this line and then read across the value over here. Well, it looks like Jamie got 39 marks in his maths test. 39 marks. Okay. Okay, question number 4 says, the table gives information about the time taken in seconds by 18 students to run a race. And so the data is given in groups. So basically what this means is there were one person who completed the race between 5 and 10 seconds. And there were 2 students who completed between 10 and 15 and so on. And it says, work out an estimate of the mean time and give your answer to 3 significant figures. So when the data is given in a group, so we don't know whether this person took just above 5 seconds or 6 seconds or 10 seconds. So we have to average the time. So we add another column, midpoints. So we take the value halfway. So the midpoint between 5 and 10 is 7.5. And so if you can add them together, 10 plus 5 is 15, and divided by 2, 7.5. And the halfway, or the midpoint between 10 and 15 is 12.5. Between 15 and 20 is 17.5, and then 22.5. So one person completed between that time, so times by the frequency, each of these midpoints, and write your answers out here. And that will give us the total time. So we will need to add all those values together and then divide by the total number of students, which were 18. Okay, so let's work that out. Okay, so that all comes to 335, and then we do 335 divide by 18 to find the mean time, and on your calculator it should be 18.6111 and so on. Now this to 3 significant figures. So first one, second one, third one. The next number is less than 5. So the answer is going to be 18.6 seconds. Okay. Okay, question 5 says, write 37 centimeter cubes in millimeter cubes. Now there are 10 millimeters in 1 centimeter. Okay, but since it's the volume units, cubes, so 37 times by 10 times by 10 and times by 10. The common mistake is pupils just would do 37 times by 10, but that will only convert into millimeters, not into millimeters cubed. Okay, so if you work this out, so that will be 37,000 millimeters cubed. Okay, so moving on to question number 6. It said Nemo was driving to a hotel. He looked at his sat-nav at 13:30, and it said time to destination was 65 miles, and he arrived at the hotel at 14:48. Work out the average speed of the car from 13:30 to 14:48. Okay, so you must show all your working. Now the average speed or speed is distance divided by time, and we have the distance, which is 65, and the time between 13:30 to 14:48. Okay, so you can take this in steps. from 13:30 to 14:30, that's 1 hour. And then from 14:30 to 14:48, that's another 18 minutes. Okay, so we can't just divide by 118 because it's 1 hour and 18 minutes. So 18 minutes need to be converted into hours. Sorry, so it's going to be 18 divided by 60, which is 0.3. So the time was 1 hour and then 0.3 hours. So 1.3 hours, okay? So then we can substitute this into here. Distance divided by time, 65 divided by 1.3. Okay, so which is 50 miles per hour. Okay. Okay, 7A, it says write this very large number, 32,460,000 in standard form. So standard form, 3.246, and how many powers of 10 do we need? So if you look here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So times 10 to the power of 7. Okay, so that will be the answer for part A. And then if you look here, that's already in a standard form, and it says write in ordinary number. So we want to not write this in a power of 10. So it's a small number. So 4, 9, 6, 0 on this side, one more 0 on this side, and this is what this number should be. So 0.00496. Okay, then it says Asma was asked to compare the following two numbers. A equals 6.212 times 10 to the power of 8, and B equals 4.73 times 10 to the power of 9. She says that 6.212 is bigger than 4.73. So A is bigger than B. Now, is Asma correct? Okay, so while Asma is not correct because she has not taken into account the powers of 10. So this is the 10 to the power of 9, and that is 10 to the power of 8. So number B is always going to be bigger because it's got one extra power of 10. Okay, so write this in, and that should get you all 3 marks for this question. Okay, question number 8 says the diagram shows a regular pentagon and a parallelogram, and work out the size of the angle marked X. Okay, now if you notice it in parallelogram, so this angle would be 117 degrees as well, and the size of this angle here, so again these are co-interior angles in a parallelogram, so we can do 180 minus 117, that will be 63 degrees. So this angle over here is 63 degrees, and this would be 63 as well, because a four-sided shape, the sum of the angles is 360 degrees. Now we can figure out, so because it's a regular shape, so all these angles have an equal size. So all of this angle here, all this angle would be of a certain size that we can find out. So we can use this formula, n minus 2 times by 180, and now this gives us the sum of the interior angles in a polygon. So n is the number of sides, so 5 minus 2 times by 180, okay, that is 540. Now, since there are 5 equal angles, 540 divided by 5 is 108 degrees. So all of this angle is 108, but we already know part of this angle, which is 63. So 108 minus 63. Okay, and that equals 45 degrees. So x equals 45. Okay, so that is the answer for this question. Okay, number 9, it says enlarge triangle A by a scale factor of 2.5 with the center 0 and 1. So every side has to be multiplied by 2.5 and made bigger by a scale factor given to us. Okay, so we can start off with looking at the scale factor here. So 0, 1 is this point. Now, if you look at this first point of that triangle, this is 2 squares away. Now, 2 times by 2.5, and that is 5. So this point here is going to be 5 squares away from the center of enlargement. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the new point, or the corner, will start from here. Now this side, we got 4 squares on this side. So 4 times by 2.5 is 10. So that side is going to be 10. Okay, so let's draw that in. So we're starting with 1 square, and we will have that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And then the top is 2 squares. So again, 2 times by 2.5 is 5 squares across. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then finally, we just join the points together to form that into a triangle. Now, you can check your answer if you've done this correctly by drawing the lines through the corresponding points. And it should pass through the center of enlargement. So you can do one line here, and then the other line, it goes through there, and then third. So yeah, we have done that enlargement correctly. So everything fits into that shape. Okay. Okay, question 10 is solving an equation with the fraction. Now, how I would approach this is multiply both sides by 7 first. So times by 7 and times by 7. So that means this would cancel out. So we got 9 plus x on this side, and then 7 times by 11 minus x. So all of that term have to be multiplied by 7, okay? So then 9 plus x, and we can multiply the bracket out. That's 77 minus 7x. Okay, so now I'm going to add 7x on both sides. So that will be 8x on this side, because we got 1x over here, so 8x. And then if you now take away 9 from both sides, so 77, take away 9, that is 68. Okay, and then x equals 68 divided by 8, and x should equal 8.5. Okay, that is the answer for this. Okay, so moving on to part B, and it says simplify this expression, and we have been given another fraction. So that means basically y plus 3 times. That's what the power means. And then as the denominator, we have y plus 3 squared. So y plus 3. Now, if you expand that, it becomes really easy, because one of these can be cancelled with that, and the other one can be cancelled with the one at the top. And then we are left with 4y plus 3. Or you can just multiply this out. We don't need to really, but you can have the answer in this form as well. Okay. Okay, question number 11, it says the probability tree diagram shows the probabilities that Bisma will be late for work on 2 days next week. So we're given probability for Monday, late is 0.07 and not late is 0.93. And then on a Tuesday, we've got slightly different probability, 0.2, 0.02 and then 0.98. And then we've got something different here, 0.11 and 0.89. It says calculate the probability that Bisma will be late on exactly one of the 2 days. Okay, so that means one of the 2 days, she could be late on one day and not late on the next day, or she could be not late on Monday and then late on a Tuesday. So we're interested in this part of the tree diagram and also this one here. Okay, so the probability of late and not late for one of the days is 0.07 times by 0.98, and then not late and late is 0.93 times by 0.11. Now if you work these two out on the calculator, okay, so this is 0.0686 and this one here is 0.1023, and then finally we add them together. Okay, so if we add these values together, 0.0686 add 0.1023, and we should get 907.1 and then 0.9. So this is the answer for this question, 3 marks. So nice and simple for a question 11 in paper 3H. So 0.1709. Okay, question number 12, it says a stem and leaf diagram shows information about the height in centimeters of 23 sunflowers. And it says on a grid, draw a box plot for this information. And we're given a key for this stem and leaf diagram. So 17/3, it represents 173 centimeters. Now on the box plot, we need 5 pieces of information. We need the lowest value, okay? We need the lower quartile, we need median, upper quartile, and the highest value, okay? Now looking at your stem and leaf diagram, we got the lowest value, if you look here, that's 173. And then the highest value, if you look here, we have 219. And we can find the median, lower quartile and upper quartile from the stem and leaf diagram. Now the median is the middle value in this data. Well, the data is already in order because in stem and leaf diagram, the values are in order. So they go from lowest to highest. Now, if I was to cross out a value from either side, okay, so, and then eventually we will get to the middle. So 3 gone, the 4th one, 5th, and just so on. Just bear with me here. So while we do this quickly. Now the median value is this value here. Now it is not just 7, it is 197. Okay, now check again because there are 23 altogether. And if you did 23 plus 1 divided by 2, that's 24 divided by 2, which is the 12th value. Now, if you look here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th value is the median. Okay. Now, the upper quartile and lower quartile. So remember, the lower quartile is 1/4 of the way. Median is halfway in the data, and the upper quartile is 3/4. Now, so we need to look on the first quarter. So the values, we're looking at this part of the graph now, or the stem and leaf diagram, sorry, for the lower quartile. Now, again, do the same thing as you have done to find the median. We look at, I'm just going to try that different color here. So I'm going to cross out values from either side. So 3 goes with this one here, or 173 rather. And the second with the second one, third, and we've got fourth and fifth. And the lower quartile value is, if I just take that out, is 188. So 188, and then we do the same thing for the upper quartile. So I'm just going to cross this from either side. So that will go with this one, and that goes with that one. And then we left with this value here, and that is 209. 209 over here. Okay, so, and let's plot that in. So how we plot this is, the lowest value is 173. So if you check your stem and leaf diagram, we got 10 squares represent 10 units. So nice and simple scale. Each square would represent 1 unit. So we can draw out the stem and leaf. So 173, it doesn't matter how high the line is. Okay, so it can be it doesn't really matter as long as it's at the right place. So that's 173. And the median, the lower quartile is 188. So I'm going to plot that in next. So 188 would be here. 197 is the median. So 195, 197. And 209. So that would be here, and then 219 is the highest value, and that goes there. So now we just need to close that box off really, so we can have a box around the lower quartile, median and upper quartile, and then the lines joining from the lowest value to the lower quartile, and the upper quartile to the highest value. Okay, so just to make that, this is the lowest value, this is lower quartile, this was median, upper quartile, and that was the highest value. Okay, so that is the box plot. Okay, question 13, it says liquid A and liquid B are mixed together in the ratio of 2 to 13 by volume to make liquid C. And liquid A has a density of 1.21 grams per centimeter cubes, and liquid B has a density of 1.02 grams per centimeter cube. A cylindrical container is filled completely with liquid C, and a cylinder has a radius of 3 centimeters and a height of 25 centimeters, and work out the mass of the liquid in the container, and give your answer to 3 significant figures. Okay, now let's start off by looking at the information that we already have. So we got liquid A and we got liquid B, and their volume ratio is 2 to 13. Okay, now then he says the cylindrical container is filled completely with liquid C with a radius of 3 and a height of 25. So we've got a cylindrical container, and it's got a radius of 3 centimeters, and so we got a height of 25 centimeters. Now we can work out the volume of this container, or the volume of liquid C, because we can do is find the volume of this container by doing the cross-section area and times by the height of this container. So the cross-section is a circle. So pi r squared is the area of the circle. And if you times by the vertical height, that will give us the volume of this container. So the volume would be pi times by 3 squared times by 25. And I'm just going to leave this in terms of pi because we want the most accurate answer in the end. So we can round up to 3 significant figures. So 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times by 25, and times by pi is 225 pi. Okay. Now, since we've been given the ratio of volume of A and B, and we can split this up 2 to 5 pi in ratio of 2 to 13. So 2 plus 13 equals 15. And 2 to 5 pi divided by 15, and that is 15 pi. Okay, now 15 pi times by 2 is 30 pi. So liquid A, the volume of that is 30 pi. So we're just going to write down volume on this side. And then 15 pi times by 13 is 195 pi. So 195 pi. And then we are given densities of each liquid, which is 1.21. And liquid B is 1.02. And we should be able to find the mass of the two liquids and then add them together. Now, density, if you look at the density formula, density is mass over volume, okay? Now, we want to find mass. So mass is going to equal density times by volume, okay? So if we multiply these two numbers together, volume and density together here, we should be able to find the mass of the both liquids, and then we can add them together. Okay, so let's just find that. Okay, so the mass of A is 114.039 and few more decimals there, and the mass of B is 624.8627 and so on. Now, if we add them together, and 738.5, and when we round up, so the total mass of the liquid in the container C would be round up to 3 significant figures. So we got 1, 2, and 3, and the next number is 5 or bigger. So we add 1 to this number here. So it's 739 grams of liquid C that we have. Okay, so that is the answer for this question. Okay, question number 14, it says a group of people went to a restaurant and each person chose one starter and one main course. And it says, well, there are options of a starter, of soup and prawns, and the main course is lasagna and curry. And the number of people who chose soup to the number of people who chose prawns were 2 to 3. And of those who chose soup, the number of people who chose lasagna to the number of people who chose curry was 5 to 3. And of the people who chose prawns, and the number of people who chose lasagna and the number of people who chose curry was 1 to 5. It says, what fraction of the people chose curry? Now, again, lots of information in this question. And I would just take one piece of information at a time and try to make sense of that, okay? So now, if you look here, the number of people who chose soup to the number of people who chose prawns is 2 to 3. So I'm just going to write this down. Soup and prawns were in the ratio of 2 to 3, okay? But basically 2/5 of the people chose soup and 3/5 chose prawns. And then the next information, it says, of those who chose soup, so we're just looking at this section here now, and from those people, the people who chose lasagna and the people who chose curry as their main were 5-3. So lasagna and curry was 5-3. So again, I'm just going to write that as fractions, 5/8 and 3/8. Okay, so 5/8 and 3/8. And then of the people who chose prawns, so we're looking at this section now, and from those people, the number of people who chose lasagna and the number of people who chose curry as a main course were 1-5. So 1/6 and 5/6 and lasagna and curry. So we can write this in fractions as well, 5-6. Okay, so what fraction of the people chose curry? Okay, well, we got curry on this section, the people who originally chose soup as a starter, and we got curry on this side from the people who chose prawns as a starter. So 3/8 of those people, and it was 2/5 initially who chose soup. So that was 6/40, and then 5/6 over here, times by the ones who chose prawns. They were 3/5 initially. Okay, so that's 15 over 30, which is a half. Okay, you can cancel them down or you can leave them as they are because you have a calculator. You can work them out on a calculator. But since it's fractions questions, and I don't really like using a calculator for that, so we got 320, 3/20th on this side, plus we got a half on this side. And if we add them together, so don't forget to make this into equivalent fraction, times by 10. Okay, both sides. So we got 3/20th, add 10 over 20, and that is 13 out of 20 of people who chose curry. So that is the answer for this question. Okay, question number 15, it says, prove algebraically that the sum of the squares of any two consecutive even numbers is always a multiple of 4. Okay, so again, highlighting the important information. So we're looking for two consecutive even numbers. Okay, so even number, any number which can be divided by 2, or 2 goes into that number. So I'm going to write the first number as 2n. Now the number next to that consecutive even number would be 2n plus 2. Okay, so after you've chosen your numbers, it says show that the sum of the squares, so sum means adding and squares mean we are going to square these numbers. Okay, so prove algebraically that the sum of the squares of any two consecutive even numbers is always a multiple of 4. So all we need to do now is multiply these brackets out and simplify them. So again, not forgetting to square the 2 as well. So that's 4n squared. Now you can do a bit of side working out here. We've got 2n plus 2 and 2n plus 2. So multiply them out. We got 4n squared plus 4n plus another 4n and plus 4 and 4n squared plus 8n plus 4. So we write this down over here. So 4n squared plus 8n plus 4. Okay, so collecting like terms, that's 8n squared plus 8n plus 4. Okay, so is this a multiple of 4? Well, if we can take 4 as a common factor of all three terms, it should be a multiple of 4. So, but I can see that from here, that 4 will go into all of these terms. So that'll be 2n squared plus 2n plus 1. So 4 is a factor. So therefore, the sum of the square of two consecutive even numbers is always a multiple of 4. Okay, question 16, it says y is inversely proportional to the square of x, and when y is 8, x equals 2.5, and find the negative value of x when y equals 8/9. Okay, so we start off by y is inversely proportional to the square of x. Inverse proportion, 1 over x squared. So this is the square of x. Inverse means 1 over something. And then we can remove the proportional sign into equal sign by putting the constant in, x squared. Okay, so forming an equation. Now, let's put in the values that we have already been given. It says y is 8 and x is 2.5. Okay, so k over 2.5 squared. Okay, now we can find what k is by rearranging this equation. So we can do 8 times by, so timesing both sides by 2.5 squared, 2.5 squared, and k equals 50. Okay, now we can now substitute this value of k into this equation. So y equals 50 over x squared. And now we are ready to do our next part of the question. So it says find the negative value of x when y is 8/9. So if we put 8/9 in place of y, or substituting that in place of y, we have 50 over x squared. Okay, so we can solve this equation. We can cross multiply, and it will be 8x squared times by 50 times by 9. So 8x squared is 450. X squared is 450 divided by 8. Okay, divided by 8. So x squared is 56.25. And now we're going to square root both sides to get the x value. When you square root something, now this is a find the negative value of x. You get one positive value and you get one negative value. So that is 7.5. Okay, but we want the negative value of x for this question. So it's minus 7.5, which is the answer to this question. Okay, question 17, it says here's a graph of y equals x squared minus 3. And it says use the graph to find estimates of the solutions for the equation x squared minus 2x minus 2 equals 0. Now, how do we get from this equation y equals x squared minus 3 into looking like this? Y equals x squared minus 2x minus 2. Now, go back to the first equation, and if we had, okay, x squared minus 3 minus 2x, and make that into plus 1 equals 0. So this minus 3 and plus 1 will give us a minus 2, and then we've got minus 2. So if you rearrange this equation now, so it should make x squared minus 3 equals, taking away 2x from both sides, it will be 2x and then minus 1 on this side. Okay, so this was the original equation. So that means we need to draw a line for y equals 2x minus 1, and wherever that line crosses the equation x squared minus 3, and we will have to read the solutions of at that point, at those 2 points. Okay, so when you draw a graph or sketch a graph, I'm just going to find two values. When x equals a 0, y would equal, so 2 times a 0 is 2, y is minus 1. So one set of coordinates 0 and minus 1. Okay, and now when y equals a 0, so when y equals a 0, it'd be 0 equals 2x minus 1, and 2x equals a 1, and x equals a half. Okay, so we have another set of coordinates when x is 0.5 and y is a 0. So I'm going to plot these 2 points and just draw a straight line between those 2 points. Okay, so 0 and minus 1 is a point over here, and then we have 0.5 and a 0. So 0.5 and a 0 is this point here, and I'm just going to draw a line through these points. Okay, so, and then again using a ruler, extend your line so it is a nice straight line. Okay, now the two solutions that we are looking for, one of them is over here and the other one is over here. So if you look at this point, the x value from that point, if I just draw a line from there, so we're looking at about 2.7. So x is a 2.7 here, and then on the other side here, this is again is going to be minus 0.78 between there, minus 0.8 I'm going to go for. Okay, so we've got two solutions, x equals a minus 0.8 and x equals a 2.7. So again, approximate estimate solutions, and you should get a bit of a leeway if you haven't got these numbers exactly right. Okay, question 18, it says diagram shows triangle ABC, and we're given the lengths of each side, and it says D is a point on BC such that the size of the angle DAC, so DAC is this angle here, is 2/5 of the size of BCA. So BCA is this angle here. So BCA and DAC. Okay, so calculate the length D to C. So we're looking for this length over here, and it says give your answer to 3 significant figures and show all you're working out. Okay, so the plan is to work out the size of BCA. Now it's a non-right angle triangle, so we can use sine rule, cosine rule to work out the missing angle. Well, since we are given 3 sides, so we are going to use the cosine rule for the missing angle. Okay, so the cosine rule for the missing angle, either you can memorize it or you can actually work that out. So the cosine rule is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc and cos of a. Now if I make cos of a the subject, so I'm going to add both sides with minus 2bc and cos of a. So 2bc cos of a, and then take away the a squared from both sides. So b squared plus c squared, take away a squared, and then cos of a would be b squared plus c squared minus a squared, and all of that over 2bc. Okay, so either you can memorize this formula here, or you can actually learn how to rearrange that from the formula of a missing side. So we can label the sides. Okay, so if we label each side, I'm just going to call that A here, and the opposite to A would be a small a, and the other sides B and a C. It doesn't really matter which way you do that. So substituting the values in, so cos of A would be B squared, 6.2 squared, plus C squared, 6.1 squared, and minus A squared, which is 3.4 squared, and all of that divided by 2 times B times C, which is 6.2 times by 6.1. Now you can use the calculator to work this one out, but not forgetting you want the inverse of cos in the end. So if you work this out, and the answer for the missing angle is 32.08046 and so on. Okay, now the size of the angle DAC is 2/5 of this. So 2/5, so we can work out angle DAC, 2/5 times by what we just worked out, 32.08046, and DAC equals 12.832. Now, so this angle here, DAC, is 12.832. Okay, so, and BAC was 32.08 and so on. Now, we should be able to work out the missing side D to C, this side here, because we're looking for the opposite side to this angle. And have we got the opposite side and angle? Yes, so we can figure out this missing angle here by doing 180 minus the angles that we just worked out, 32.08 minus 12.832, and that angle is 135.088. Okay, so now we have the opposite angle and opposite side here, and we're looking for the opposite side to angle DAC. So we can use the sine rule. A over sine A equals B over sine B. And A is the one which is missing, which is D to C over sine of 12.832, and that equals B, which is 6.2 over sine of 135.088. Okay, so rearranging this formula, so D to C would equal 6.2 times by sine of 12.832, and all of that divided by sine of 135.088, and D to C, if you work this out on the calculator, 1.95 centimeters to 3 significant figures. Okay, so that would be your answer for this question. Okay, so if I display the whole thing. Okay, question 19 is a graph shows information about the part of a cyclist's journey, and we're given a distance in meters on y-axis and time on the x-axis in seconds, and this is work out an estimate of the speed in meters per second of a cyclist at a time 6 seconds. Okay, now as you can see, this is a curve and the cyclist is accelerating. So we can't just do total distance traveled to worry about the time taken. We're looking for a speed at a particular point, which is over here at 6 seconds. Now we know that speed is distance divided by time. So we need to draw a tangent at this point in the similar shape to the curve. So the tangent just touches the curve at that point, and we can find the gradient of that tangent because gradient is change in y divided by change in x, so it'll be a distance over time. So let's just have a go at drawing that. So if you draw a tangent, so we can just follow the shape of the curve. So I'm just going to go as far as that, and you can use a ruler and a pencil to do this, and feel free to change if it doesn't look right. So I'm just going to leave the tangent there. And if I now look at the gradient, so draw a triangle, and let's try to find the gradient of this line. Now from 15, so that's 15 there, and this is 5 here. So that is 10 meters traveled. And then the time over here, so that we've got 7 in the middle. So 7.2, 7.4 at this point. And then roughly about 4.4 over here. And the distance between there, or the time difference between there and there, 7.4 take with 4.4 is 3. So the speed at that point, so the distance traveled, which is 10, and the time taken is 3. So if you put meters and seconds here, okay, so we have 3.3 recurring. So I'm going to leave that as 3.3 meters per second. So don't worry if your answer is a little bit out from here. So they will accept a range of answers, and anything from, let's just say, 3.05 to 3.7 would be acceptable for this question. Okay, question number 20, it says, here are the first 5 terms of a sequence, and find an expression for in terms of n for the nth term of this sequence. Okay, so we haven't been told whether this sequence is a linear sequence or a quadratic sequence or like geometric or anything. So what we can do is we can start off by looking at the difference between the terms. Now between the first term and the second term, there's a difference of +1, and then we have +3, +5, and +7. And then the second difference, if we have a look at that, is +2, and we've got +2 and +2. So we know that it is a quadratic sequence. Okay, and the general formula for a quadratic sequence is an squared plus bn plus c. So you have to memorize this, and we need to find what a, b, and c are of the sequence. Now, there are a few ways that you can do this question, a couple of methods, but I'm just going to show you a method where you can memorize 3 equations. The first one is a plus b plus c, and that equals the first number in the sequence, which is -1. Now the second equation you need to memorize is 3a plus b, which is equal to the first difference. And then finally 2a, and that is the second difference, which is 2. Now a is the coefficient in front of n squared, so we can figure that one out. A would be 1 because 2 divided by 2 equals 1. So we know that it's going to be 1, so it's going to start with n squared. Now a is 1, and now we can substitute this into this equation. So 3 times by 1 plus b equals a 1, and then 3 plus b equals a 1, and b is going to be 1 minus 3. So take away 3 from both sides, and that is -2. So the second term is going to be minus 2n. And now we can find what c is. So a plus b plus c should equal -1. Well, a is 1, b is -2, plus c equals minus 1. So this is minus 1 plus c equals minus 1. So c must be 0. Okay, so we're not going to have anything in the end. So the nth term of this sequence is n squared minus 2n. Okay, question 21, it says when a biased coin is thrown 4 times, the probability of getting a 4 or getting 4 heads is 16 over 81. And work out the probability of getting 4 tails when the coin is thrown 4 times. Now, a normal coin, the probability would be getting a head each time would be a half, and then times by half, 4 lots of that, and you'll get the answer. But this is a biased coin. So, but the fact is, there has been 4 fractions that's been multiplied together, and that gives you 16 over 81. And these fractions are of the same value because it's from the same coin. So what we can do is we can do the fourth root of 16 and also 81, and that is 2 over 3. So there's 2/3 of a chance getting a head from this coin. Now, if there's 2/3 of getting a head, now the probability of getting a tail would be 1/3. Okay, so to get 4 tails when the coin is thrown 4 times, we can do 1/3 times by 1/3 4 times here, and that would be 1 over so 9, 27, 81. So 1 over 81 would be the answer for that. Okay, question number 22, we are given algebraic fractions, and it's a division of these algebraic fractions, and it says show that it's simplified to ax where a is an integer. Okay, so whenever you're trying to simplify this, look to factorize and see also if you can multiply them rather than dividing. So if we leave the first fraction as it is, we got x squared plus 4x minus 12, and we can times and then turn this over, and that will be x cubed minus 36x over x minus 6. Okay, now have a look now if you can factorize any of these terms. So looking at the top here, 7x and 14. So 7 can be taken out as a common factor, and that'll be x minus 2. Now this one here, again, is a quadratic, so we can factorize this into 2 brackets. So we got x and 2 numbers that multiply to give you minus 12, but add them together, it gives you plus 4. So that is plus 6 and minus 2. And then if we can factorize this one, so if we can take out x as a common factor to start off with, and you're left with x squared minus 36. Now 36 is a square number, so we can use difference of 2 squares in a moment here. So we got x minus 6, but this here, x squared minus 36, that can be replaced with, again, factorizing it further, difference of 2 squares, x minus 6 and x plus 6. So I'm just going to write this again, and then we can just simplify showing the working out. It takes a bit of a time, but make sure you show all the steps that you have done. So x minus 6, x plus 6, and all of that over x minus 6. Okay, so x minus 6 will cancel with this. X plus 6 would cancel out with that one. And we got x minus 2 cancels with x minus 2 at the bottom here. And what we're left with is 7 from here, 7 times by x is 7x. So A is a 7, basically. Okay, so nice and easy simplification. Okay, question number 23, it says diagram shows a sector OACB of a circle with center O, and the point C is the midpoint of the arc AB, and the diagram shows a hollow cone with vertex O. Hollow means it's empty space inside, and the cone is formed by joining O to A and O to B together, and the cone has a volume of 56.8 and a height of 3.6, and calculate the size of angle AOB of the sector OACB. So in this instance, we're trying to figure out this angle over here and give your answer correct to 3 significant figures, okay? Now, again, lots of information in this question, and I'm going to work with the volume, which is 56.8 and a height of 3.6. So the height of this cone is 3.6, and I'm going to use the volume formula, and the only thing missing here is the radius. So if I put this information in, 56.8 1/3 times by pi times by r squared and times by 3.6. If I rearrange this formula, so I should get r squared equals, we've got 56.8, all of that divided by 1/3 pi and then times by 3.6. So if you work out the radius, don't forget to square root this to get the radius. Okay, so the radius is 3.88158. So we can write this down, 3.88158, and that's a right angle triangle. Now, we should be able to find the length on this side using Pythagoras theorem, because once we find this length, you can work out the surface area, and then the surface area will allow us to find the angle of the sector of the circle there. So the surface area, again, to work that out, I need to find what L is. So using Pythagoras theorem, L squared equals 3.6 squared plus 3.88158 squared. And don't forget to square root in the end. So L equals 5.29 and so on. So 5.29, and then I can use the surface area formula to work out the surface area of this cone, which is pi times by r, and r was 3.88158, times by L, which is 5.29, and surface area equals, okay, that's 64.5164. And now to find the missing angle of this, remember the area of the sector we can be given by, so the missing angle that we're trying to find out, over 360 times by pi and times by r squared. And if you put our area in, we got 64.5164 equals this missing angle. I'm just going to call that AOB over 360 and times by pi times by r. Now r is the, if you look here, A to O is the length of the slanted length of the cone, but it's also the radius of the sector, which is 5.29. So 5.29 squared. Now if you rearrange this formula, so AOB should equal 64.516 times by 360, and all of that divided by pi times by 5.29 squared, and AOB equals 263.9. And to round this up to 3 significant figures, it would be 264 degrees. Okay, so that is the answer for this question. Okay, question number 24, it says OXYZ is a parallelogram and O2X is A and O2Y going in this direction is B, and P is a point on OX, that O to P and P to X is 1 to 2. So that means O to P is 1/3 A, and then P to X would be 2/3 A. And then R is a point on O to Y, such that OR and RY is 1/3. So O to R, this little bit here, would be 1/4 of a B, and this would be 3/4 of a B going from R to Y. Okay, so B there. Now it says work out in simplest form the ratio Z to P and Z to R. Okay, so how do we get from Z to P? Okay, so we can get from Z to P by going Z to O first, and then we can go from O to P. Okay, now to go from Z to O, that is same way as is parallel lines on parallelogram, so equal length and direction. So it would be whatever Y to X is. So we can find what Y to X is first. So it's going from Y to O, which would be a minus B, and then from O to X, that is plus A, or you can write it down as A minus B. So this is A minus B. And now we can go from Z to P. So Z to P would be going from Z to O, which is A minus B, and then going from O to P, which would be plus 1/3 A. Now, if I simplify that, Z to P would be, so A plus 1/3 A, that's 1 and 1/3 A. So 1 and 1/3 A is 4. 4 times by 1 is 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, so that's 4/3A and minus a B. Okay, and then we can work out what Z to R is. Now Z to R, how do we get from there to there? So we can go from, again, Z to O and then O to R. So Z to O would be A minus B, and then O to R is plus 1/4 of B. So Z to R would be now A plus 1/4, A, we haven't got any like terms, so A would be on its own, and then minus B plus 1/4 B, that's minus 3/4 B. Okay, so if we put this down as a ratio, so we got Z to P and we got Z to R. So Z to P is 4/3A minus B, and then Z to R is this bit here, which is A minus 3/4 B. Now we can simplify this. Okay, so there are a few ways of doing this. I'm just going to multiply both sides by 12 because 12 common denominator for 3 and 4. So 12 times 4 is 48, and 48 divided by 3 is 16. So this is 16A minus 12B, and then 12A, and then 12 times 3 is 36. 36 divided by 4 is minus 9B. Now, if I factorize this using 4 on the outside, that's 4A minus 3B. Now, if I take a common factor over here, 3 on the outside, and that will be 4A minus 3B. So you can see that Z to P and Z to R is in a ratio of 4 to 3. Okay, so that is the answer for this question.